The other reservation that this atheist had was, if God is omnipotent and omniscient, then how come there's evilness in the world? Or how come he didn't know everything that's going to happen? How come he doesn't know all of my choices? How come he didn't know that humans were going to reject him when he gave us, the option of eating the fruits? Well, God is omnipotent and he is omniscient. He knows everything that you're going to choose. But again, we have free will. And so we have the ability to choose. We can choose his will, his definition of the world, or we can choose our own and we can reject his. And because of that, we can experience whatever series of events that we so choose. It doesn't mean that God isn't always reaching his hand out, ready for us to take it, ready for us to say, okay, there is something that knows more than me, that is good for me because it is on the side of truth. It is truth. And so if I put my hands and my faith in this thing, then I will never be led astray. But if we continue to lead on our own cognitive faculties and our own definition of truth, we will always fall short of it. We will always be in this place where it can be proven right or wrong, or it can be argued against, or it can be twisted or manipulated because it is not pure and it is not actual truth. Of course, God knows what you're going to choose, but that doesn't mean that he has any power to stop you from choosing it or to influence your decision, because while he is all-powerful, he gave some of his power up when he chose to give us free will. And asking why evilness happens, well, evilness is just the lack of God, right? It's just the rejection of God. Evilness is, again, a choice. It might not be a conscious one for most people at the beginning of life and the early years of life, but eventually along the way you become conscious of the fact that you're making poor choices because it's in misalignment from that innate understanding of truth, that innate moral compass, that moral value where you're like, okay, something's good or something's bad. That feeling that you get when you make a decision that you probably shouldn't have made. I made many of those in my life where you're like, probably should have handled that better, right? I could have done something differently. That is God. That is God, because God is sovereign and his truth is sovereign and we have access to it. That's morality. Morality is not logical. It is innate. And so God does not allow evilness to happen. God just simply gave us free will to choose to reject him. And from our rejection, the symptom of that is falling to evil. Because if we don't choose light, then we're going to be in darkness. But just like heat, right? Heat and coldness doesn't exist. Coldness is only the lack of heat, right? Heat is the force. It's the variable that exists. Coldness is only a symptom of the scale of heat that you're dealing with. It's the same with light and dark. It's the same with God and not God, right? Or Satan or whatever, right? The amount of God that you have in your life, the more light you have in your life, the less darkness you're going to have. And the more you're going to be repelled by the darkness. The beauty of the life of Jesus Christ is it's a clear example of God's omniscience and omnipotence, because he knew that we would reject him. He gave us the choice anyway, but he put in a rescue plan so that we would be able to be saved again through belief in Jesus Christ and through belief in God in human form, because it was another opportunity for us to choose God instead of reject him. But light has already won. It's already overcome darkness. And the reason for this is not some weird time loop thing that you have to start thinking about, like wormholes or whatever. Like, okay, how did light already win if it hasn't happened yet? Or it has nothing to do with that. Just think about the nature of heat and cold again, right? Like, coldness can never overpower heat because heat decides how much coldness is allowed. The more that you allow heat to rise, you're changing the amount of coldness, right? Coldness cannot overcome heat because you can't say, I'm going to turn up the coldness. No, you say, I'm going to lower the heat. That is where your free will comes in. But it doesn't matter how much you choose to accept or reject God, because God is always going to win anyway, because he is light. He is the heat. The nature of God is just victorious. It just is. Darkness can never defeat light, because light dictates how much darkness there is. That's just the nature of it. I also want to say that God loves you unconditionally, and that means that he loves you whoever you are, wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you're walking pride parades. It doesn't matter if you're some fancy building making millions of dollars. It doesn't matter if you're homeless on the street. God is there with you. All you have to do is choose him. All you have to do is enact your free will and to say, I'm not going to continue to reject him, and choose him in your life, because he's always there, and we are just choosing to reject him. That's the only reason that we can't see him.